live stream. I have to close this window, otherwise I hear myself. Come on, load.
We did a Christmas party where the presenter had to like live stream things on YouTube so that other people didn't. It was like a quiz. It was the most complicated thing after a few cocktails.
Right there. Right. Okay. Good luck. I'm going to start the webinar. I know, in fact, I'm going to get the video playing, and then I'm going to start the webinar.
Awesome.
Okay.
I feel like a right doing this, but here we go.
Okay. Live. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I have a funny feeling I didn't share my screen properly then, and you just heard the video, but didn't see it. That may have happened. I'm not sure. I'm sure I'll find out afterwards. Good morning. My name is James. I'm standing in for Joe today. Some of you may have seen me before if you've been to the Birmingham Marketing Meetup or Manchester or London. Today, Joe is, his entire village is having a power cut, a planned power cut. I think he just wants a bit of a lie-in, but we will find out. I mean, Joe clearly is living in the 1950s somewhere in Cambridgeshire. But yeah, if you, just a bit of housekeeping in the Q&A, if you put any questions in there, we will answer those after the presentation. And if you're using the chat function, then make sure that you are having it as all panelists and attendees, so that everyone can see what you're saying. Put a note in there to say where you're from, get the conversation going. This is the idea of the webinar. So our guest today is Marisa Thomas. She started off as head of brand for Bloom and Wild, and how a lot of people will know her and remember one of the amazing things that she was responsible for was being the first brand to give you the option to opt out of their emails around Mother's Day. A really thoughtful and wonderful campaign that then led to the thoughtful marketing movement, which lots of retailers have then signed up for. So just from that alone, she has moved the industry, and I'm really, really excited. We're really, really proud to have her on the webinar today. So her talk is unsurprisingly going to be about treating people like people and creating a two-way relationship and being more human, which is something when we are in a data-driven world, sometimes we can forget that actually we're marketing to people. So the format is the same as always. We have got a short presentation, and then there'll be the Q&A afterwards. Within the Q&A, there's a little thumbs up feature. If you hit the thumbs up and you get your questions in early, those are likely to be the ones that get answered. And it is as simple as that. Now, you guys are all here, and you're here for free, which is great. And the reason that we can do this is because of our amazing sponsors. Now, you'll see that I spent about a good half an hour last night drawing Cambridge Marketing College's logo. And I now see on Zoom, you can't see it. So I printed it out and I'll just hold it here instead. So Cambridge Marketing College have been with us right from the beginning. They've been with us for years and they are just such a brilliant organisation and such lovely people. So if you're looking at getting qualified and learning more, we'd highly recommend them. They do their CIM courses and they can do a lot of online learning that's easy and practical to do. So brilliant business. Do go and check them out. Just a quick mention of our other sponsors, which are Fiverr, Third Light, Gravity Global, Pitch Consultants, Redgate, who are hiring, Brand Recruitment, Impression, who are new, and we'll tell you more about those soon, Content Cal, and Human. And finally, before I hand over to Marisa, Joe told me that Content Square are a business that closes down their marketing department every Tuesday morning, and they all watch this webinar, which just blew my mind. That and then chat about it afterwards, which is just fantastic. So just wanted to say good morning to them. Hopefully that will make their day. So that's enough of me waffling on. I think everyone's here to hear the wisdom from Marisa rather than myself. So I'm going to hand over to you, and then yeah, we'll have the Q&A afterwards.
Awesome, thanks James. Super excited to be here. I'm just going to share my screen. Fab. It's just so nice seeing all these messages coming through. I think it just makes me feel like there's actually people behind the screen, so really enjoying that. Hi everyone, so thanks James for the intro. I won't try and explain anything more about myself. Instead I thought we could just kind of get straight into it. So I've been following the Marketing Week up for a while, and I spoke to Joe last year when I was still at Bloom & Wild. And then since then, I've just seen amazing talk after amazing talk and just incredible guests. And I've just kind of been mulling for the last month, how on earth can I add value to this? As James mentioned, I was at Bloom & Wild. I kind of used to tell the story of the thoughtful marketing movement, and I'll absolutely talk about that and share some kind of inside tips on how to think about it. But I've moved to a company called Everpress since then, and it kind of felt like I needed to apply something about that new job. I've been in it for 3 months, so I'm pretty light on case studies. So I kept going back to this idea of value and what can I give? What can I help you take away? And it was quite complicated because it's really hard to share practical advice that applies to loads of different industries. We all have vastly different businesses. They all have very different objectives, a variety of different resources. So whether it's me, you, or everyone else here, there's very few things that connect us. And I think we think about it as marketing, but even within that, we all approach it so differently. And then I thought about it again, and I thought about how I approach marketing. And the thing that connects us all in our jobs, at least, it's not the channels that we use, the platforms we look after, or the marketing degrees that we did or didn't take, or in my case, dropped out of. The only thing that's kind of constant is our customers. But when we think about our jobs day to day, I really don't think that we think about our customers at all. We love to think that we do, absolutely, we'll all say that we're customer first and that we're customer focused. But I think thinking about them and knowing them and thinking about them in the way that you think about somebody else, we're absolutely missing a trick. What we have is personas, age and income, what they buy, when they click. We're hoovering up behavioral data about our customers, and then we're creating pictures, giving them names, putting them into little sections, and then deciding that we know who our customer is. But that's not really thinking about them, if you think about it. Because when you think about your mum or your best mate, maybe your partner, you don't cite their age and location as the first things you know about them. You don't talk about the frequency of loo roll purchases that they've made or the time of day that they open their emails. You talk about things that are important to them, the values that they have, the difficulties that they have, things that they like, things that they don't like, kind of their foibles, their quirks, the things that endear you to them. So I repeat, when you think about your best friend and then you think about your customer, do you really know your customer at all? we don't really think about our customers. I think that's the thing that I've come to learn in my career as a marketer. It's something that I fall guilty of very often. But thankfully, having customers is something that connects us all. What we do think about really well and quite obsessively is ourselves. I think we spend most of our time as marketers just thinking about how we can present ourselves as a better brand or a better business, one that thinks about its customers, that puts its customers first. So we sit there and we obsess and we think about our brand film, our brand manifesto, our new product launch, app release, email flow, our new social media campaign. We think about how many times that we've been mentioned, how many times we've received a great review, how big we are, how loved we are, how much better we are than everybody else. And what it comes down to is that we actually are a little bit self-absorbed. And if we acted like that with people we cared about, like we just wouldn't have any friends. Our families would have their fingers crossed that we didn't want to bubble up with them. If I bring this back to how I can add value today, I think this is the one thing that I really learned like through my marketing career. It was really kind of underlined at Bloom & Wild. I landed on that what I could share today was kind of based on those experiences, the many failures and kind of trip ups and a couple of successes, ways to kind of shift that thinking and kind of convince you to think about your customers a little bit more beyond those kind of data points that you have about them. So it's simple, like really it's nothing groundbreaking. It doesn't need extra resource. You don't need big budgets. You don't need to wait until you have a team that's twice the size to start doing this. But it is hard. And I think the reason it's hard is because you're trying to rewire the way that you're thinking. And that's infinitely harder than adopting a new platform or tactic. So to help us get there, I thought I'd kind of start by sharing a truth that has helped me think about how to get into the customer mindset more. And this is the truth. People don't tell you what they're really feeling, right? We know that to be true within our lives. We decide to stay ignorant to it within our marketing careers. And the proof is we've all hidden what we felt before. But just in case you're not buying it, I'm just going to share a story, a personal story that kind of proves that we don't always say what we feel. So a few years ago, I did this to my hair. If there's one thing that you do learn today is that you shouldn't get your straighteners fixed from a corner shop. And if the rest of this talk goes terribly, at least I've shared this photo with 337 of you. So I did this to my hair. I burnt it. It was awful. And I was super upset about it. So I went to a new hairdresser. It was the first time I found them. I found them through an actress who had talked about how great they were and kind of trusted them to sort out my hair problem. And they managed my expectations pretty well. They were like, look, like you're not going to come away from this appointment feeling like £1 million, but we'll get there. We'll have to keep trimming it and we'll get it to look okay. So it was a slow process. They kept trimming it. It didn't look any better. I just looked like a relative of Hagrid. But it was fine. My expectations were managed. I knew what I was going to get from them. And therefore I kind of left happy, even though this picture is literally leaving the hairdresser. So that was them doing their best with it. I felt like, okay, I knew what to expect. But then came the day where we'd finally gone through about, I think it was 4 or 5 haircuts. They trimmed all of this like frizz and was left was the healthy bit of hair. And it was a day that I could finally have an actual haircut where we were focusing on styling, coloring. And I was super, super excited just to add a bit more tension to it. It was 3 weeks before I was about to get married to my wife. So obviously this haircut was super important for me. Now, like, it wasn't terrible, but it just wasn't what I liked. And I was really unhappy with it. But of course, I gave the hairdresser the biggest tip I'd given her the whole time that I'd been visiting, hugged her massively and told her that I can't wait to be back after the summer and that I'd had a really like great experience on this journey of sorting my hair out. So I hated it, but I didn't say shit. And that's what I mean when people don't really say what they're feeling, because I think a lot of us have been in that position with a hairdresser. A lot of us have been in that position when we've unsubscribed from an email just because it's really bothered you. And in those moments, you're not saying what's happening. So people don't tell you what they're really feeling. I think like we know that to be true, not all the time, but a lot of the time. And we don't search for what they're really thinking or what they're really feeling. You know, if your friend never talked to you again, if they ghosted you out of the blue, you'd ask why, you'd try and get to the bottom of what you did wrong. When I never turned up to the hairdresser again, they could have asked why, they could have thought about it. And when this happens within our jobs, it's our duty to kind of ask why. But the reason we don't, and the reason we just kind of blissfully ignore these silent people who aren't saying that they're unhappy, we focus on the angry ones and then we overly focus on the really happy ones. It's because we love data, right? And there are so many great things about data. I use it day to day in my job, we all do. And like within the digital space, it's really allowed us to do things with our jobs that just felt like they would never be possible beforehand. But the problem with data is success with data is often about the biggest numbers and the fastest results. So there's no time for nuance, there's no time for compounded impact, or dare we ever talk about long-term metrics that can't be attributed directly through GA, right? We're chasing our tails, chasing instant gratification. And because we're doing that, we're just looking for the biggest open rates, the best click-through rates, the best conversion, rather than seeing who's dropping off along the way and what's going on there. So that's the context of, I think, the environment that we're in, that we kind of forget the fact that we are just living in a human world speaking to humans, and not everybody is in the mood to hear from us all the time. It doesn't mean that they don't want to purchase from us, but we can bother to try and understand what we could be doing to help it feel more like a two-way conversation. So how do we start to figure out what people are really feeling? So 3 things to try. As I said, I'm going to try and give out some value at the same point. So take some notes at this point, a few ideas to try and get yourself into that mindset. The first one, chat in real life. So ask customers face-to-face and really listen. I'm 3 months into a new job as head of marketing at Everpress, and this has been the most valuable thing that I've done. I think I've gone on a real journey of thinking I knew what the business was about, then realizing I really didn't know what the business was about, then starting to rebuild that picture. And rebuilding that picture for me has been about rebuilding it with the customer's view involved there. And don't just speak to the customers that love you. Chat to customers that have left you a bad review if they're willing to. Chat to customers who have purchased once and never come back again, or chat to that lead that you thought was really hot and then just disappeared. And do it without motive. Don't make it feel like you're trying to win them back. Genuinely just say, like, I've noticed this happened, what was going on there? And then the second one, get curious about those bad reviews. So pay attention to them, really try not to get defensive. I think it's so hard to just be like, oh, they just didn't understand this, or we're never going to win them over. But if you try and really think about what has happened in a space where a lot of people don't say what they really feel, what has happened for one of our customers to have to go out there to tell people, to warn people about whatever it is that they're having a bad experience with. If you can try and get curious, you might find some clues of things that you could be doing differently. And then finally, search for what's not being said. And that doesn't have to be within just your business environment. What's not being said, or what's being felt, maybe is a better way of putting it, is often about what's happening in the world, and remembering that just because you have an objective of getting more leads or driving more sales, you can't ignore the fact that this time last year we were all plummeted into a lockdown and we're really freaking out. So having that context and thinking about what's not being said, what other people are feeling, can help you kind of navigate a more thoughtful way to your marketing approach. So just on that final point on searching for what's not being said, I thought I'd share a little bit more about that. If your customers are unsubscribing, or maybe they're not opening your emails, not engaging with your posts, they're not repeating, whatever it is, I think what we need to try and do is ask why instead of telling them more reasons why you're great. And just to kind of go back to this friendship analogy, imagine if a friend was ignoring you, and in slowly growing intervals, each time, instead of asking them what was wrong, you just told them another benefit about why they should be mates with you, and you asked 0 things about them. It just would really, like, they wouldn't get back to you. You'd just be annoying them more and more and more. So when you're spotting things like this, if your engagement rate is dipping or people are opening your emails less, try and understand, like, are you just not giving them what they want? Is there a way for you to find out what they do want? There are going to be people that will be passive, but you might be able to learn some stuff about your audience and what they want to hear about from you. So this will give you incremental success, but sometimes you might find something that creates really huge impact. And as James mentioned at the start, and Joe mentioned in the summary of the talk, at Bloom and Wild, we a few years ago now, we offered an opt-out for Mother's Day emails, and then the year afterwards, I helped create the Thoughtful Marketing movement, which was really about taking that principle of doing something really thoughtful and trying to get more brands to think about it, both in offering opt-out, but thinking about other ways that we could understand what's going on in our customers' mindset. We launched this right before lockdown. So obviously the first conversation shifted into how to think about a pandemic and what ways you could be more thoughtful and considerate to your customers. But since then, that kind of thinking and process has taken on loads of different applications. In June, we talked about the Black Lives Matter movement and how to be there and really like act as an ally, as a brand, and not be performative. So I really recommend that you check that out. I'm not going to spend all my time talking about it because I'm not there anymore, but you can either head to my LinkedIn, there's a bunch of links of external coverage and really great articles on it, or go to their site. There's loads of great resources, everything from how to set up an opt-out if you don't know how to do it, how to get buy-in. So some really incredible insights and resources. But here's the short version of what happened, just to inspire you a little bit in terms of what can happen when you think about people as humans a little bit more. Essentially, what happened was we went from 10 to 160,000. So 10 customers, it was actually less than 10 customers, had reached out to our customer delight team and mentioned that they didn't want to receive Mother's Day emails anymore. It was too painful, it wasn't relevant, kind of didn't matter. They had said they didn't want to hear about it. And what we uncovered by offering opt-out for that occasion over a few years, along with other sensitive occasions, Valentine's Day, Father's Day, was over 160,000 customers who weren't saying how they were feeling. That's the number of people that at the time I was at Bloom and Wild had opted out of sensitive marketing emails. That's a huge chunk of customers that were potentially being pissed off for a month. And instead, we asked them what do they want to hear about instead, and we gave them this opportunity to not be harmed by our marketing and have a say in what they do and do not hear about. And I think that thinking can be applied in any business. If you're not a retailer and Mother's Day isn't applicable, what is still applicable is the idea of letting your customers say what they want to hear about, how frequently they want to hear from you about the type of content that they want. And there's loads of easy ways to do it now, whacking a poll in an email, just trying to understand which segments want to listen to what. There's loads of ways that you can do it quite quickly, or you can just speak to your customers. That movement was started, loads of brands joined, and it was a really simple ask, right? Customers didn't want to hear about things and we let them make that choice. So just by bothering to think about our customers' feelings, we'd made a huge impact, and it's been great across the UK. I think most consumers now are getting really used to being asked that question by brands. Do you want to hear about emails on Mother's Day? But moving on, maintaining relationships isn't just about stopping people as they're about to leave you forever, okay? You need to kind of think about it as a full relationship, a friendship. So it's about being there, recognizing what they do, and trying to figure out the best ways that you can help each other. And daily gestures that we can do as marketers can help demonstrate this. So in marketing, you can't go far without someone extolling the wonders of storytelling, right? I just Googled storytelling, and this is the first image that came up, and there was like a million of these, and they're helpful. And we're so used to seeing this, like great stats about why the science of storytelling, why stories are so great, and it's the future of marketing, and how it needs to be at the center of your content. And I'm one of them. I love what storytelling does for a business, a brand, for your marketing. But no shit that stories are at the heart of your content, because otherwise you just have a list of benefits and functions, right? And of course, storytelling is important, and it's nothing that's new. I think what we leave out when we're talking about the magic of storytelling and how it's gonna help you connect with your customers is why this story, like why should we be telling it? What's the impact that it's going to have? And the reason storytelling works is not because it's the future, but because it's all of our history. It's something that's unique to humans. We know this. We develop them for survival, for bonding, for learning, for understanding what to watch and watch out for. There's a great quote from John Westenberg of Pixar, which says, storytelling is the greatest technology that humans have ever created. But I think within a marketing context, and there's some really great like articles around like Pixar's guides to storytelling, but the reality is it doesn't have to be Pixar, right? You just need to make sure you're being human about it. They don't need to be sweeping stories that have so many different dimensions to it. You just need to find out what the narrative is that helps your customers see how they're placed to benefit from whatever it is that you're offering. So make sure you're being human when you tell a story, okay? And remember that stories have lasting impacts if told right, but brains don't have infinite capacity. The 4 Ps of storytelling is like as old as time, but I think is really useful to just think about when working out what the story is that you want to tell and how frequently you want to do it. So thinking about people, making the center of that always your customer, not your brand, the place, thinking about where they are in life versus what it is that they should be doing. If your software is a service, the place is not the laptop. The place is whatever the stress is or the thing that you're alleviating from their life. The plot, so what's missing, I think in a lot of cases for marketing, but it could be anything like this. And then the purpose is how it's found. So simple building blocks that allow you to layer in a human element into your storytelling and your communication. And it's not going to land in a week or a month. You can spend years telling one story. And I think in a lot of cases, particularly for smaller companies, we'd do ourselves a better service to think about what's the one thing that we'd really like people to understand about us, and then flipping it, and then what's the biggest problem that customers have that we have a solution for, and trying to solve it again and again for your stories. So we don't need to literally feature your customer, but just make sure there's tensions and solutions there. So a couple of examples of what that could look like. So this is a business focused story, right, which is red, which means bad. The story of how our software reduces the time spent in your inbox. I feel like I've seen that ad a million times come up to me on YouTube, particularly joining a new job and the things that I must be searching. So really like slight fixes to this can just help shift and rewire your brain to think about a customer, right? So that, no thanks. A customer focus could be the story of how Craig made the team feel calmer during lockdown, which is a lot more about putting the customer first and telling their side of how you are just part of something that makes their life a little bit easier. I'd like to be like Craig if I saw that story. Another way that this could be looked within the retail space. So a business focus could be the story of the number of pictures that can be stored on our latest phone. We've seen heaps of function and benefits packed ads. I think if you look at Amazon at the moment, the way that people kind of chat about the product that looks exactly the same as the other products that are available is just about the best functions that are there, which is great for that instant result. You're not going to build a relationship with a customer that way. And I'm just going to say my phone is fine. I don't need more phone storage. But how about instead telling the story of the memories shared through Sadari's photos? Instantly, you're kind of giving something which makes the customer feel like they're being seen. And that might lead them to think, I need to take more photos with my friends. They don't instantly need to buy your phone, but it's a high ticket item and you're starting to tell that story, continue to tell it. So how do we get here? Again, just thinking about things that you can apply and things that you can take away today. Because I've been doing a lot of customer chats, and I think teams that are really good at this are product and tech teams. So if you're in a company that has that resource available, chat to them first and see if they're already conducting customer interviews. Ask if you can tag along. Speak to your customer service team, see if they're doing the same thing, ask if they can tag along. That you don't need this to be a marketing specific discipline, but I've been doing it a lot over the last 3 months, and a few things that I've picked up about how to get the most from those chats. The first one is decide what counts. I've been in companies where it went too far and you'd ask customers about everything. And I guess there's this adage that people don't know what they don't know, so they can't tell you what they want if they don't know that it exists. So you'll kind of hinder innovation if you're constantly just asking people what they want. But I think deciding what counts for me, and within this kind of approach of thoughtful marketing, is about figuring out what you want, what you don't know about the customer within their life, that can help you figure out how your service or product or brand is the solution to that. So asking what they'd like to see more of isn't going to help. Asking what graphics they like more of won't build your brand. Asking what they find hardest about using your service isn't going to unearth the new story for you to tell. But if you ask big questions, so ask about life, ask about what they're into, the broader ideas that kind of allow them to talk for ages and for you to just really take it in and pick up on what's going on in your customer's mind. And then maybe you narrow it slightly to specific subjects that you know that you're able to deliver on. So you could ask them how they decide what they wear in the morning, or how they go about shopping, what frustrates them at work, or ask them about their goals for this year. So these broad questions that help you understand what's going on in their mind, so that you can then start to figure out okay, this thing that we offer actually could maybe be useful within a customer that has these sets of challenges or problems or desires and motivations. So you can use this to work out where you need to be. And then the final bit is aim to learn more about them, not how they feel about you. So try not to just ask questions about your brand, if they've seen this feature, if they understand this function. You can use qualitative surveys for that later down the line, or you can go down the quant route and just ask them if they've seen X feature. But in these one-on-one conversations, really make it about trying to understand what makes them tick. Cool. So we're nearly there. Just one final thought. So into this job, I've been kind of challenging myself with how I get my marketing strategy as a whole to be more about the customer. And instead of kind of just saying it's customer first, thinking about the words that I use at the start of building a strategy that help us all rewire our thinking and put the customer at the heart of everything that we're doing. And I think what I landed on, and actually when I started, I was going down this route as well, and I really had to sense check myself. I started to kind of work on this talk and realize I'm not really living what I'm preaching. Most marketing strategies, the start of my marketing strategy, absolutely look like this: increase revenue by X% by acquiring X new sales at this AOV and driving X new repeats, right? It's so business focused, and absolutely that's the end goal, but there's no reason why your marketing strategy needs to be written like that. And the problem is, when it comes to tactics and when you're working with your team, your tactics end up being launch a brand campaign, launch 3 new products, run 2 new partnerships, test new channels, things that are so focused on just the delivery and execution of a thing and haven't bothered to think about, are our customers there? Do they need this thing? So I challenge myself, and I keep challenging myself. I haven't got it right yet, but I thought I'd just share where I'm at in terms of reframing this broad strategic statement to be customer facing. And there's a few principles that I've put in place within my team to try and help me do that. The first is do less stuff better. So instead of thinking about all the channels that we need to be on, thinking about the channels that matter to our customers. stand up for the customer at all points. So don't just be customer first, stand up for them. If less than 10 customers have an issue with something, make sure that you're doing something about it, because it matters that they're speaking up and other people might not be saying what they're feeling. Keep checking in. So keep checking in with your customers. Don't just speak to them once and then spend the next 4 years being like, oh yeah, we did this great research. Like, it's really easy to speak to a couple of customers every 4 to 6 weeks, really not hard to do, and it's quite enriching. And then create choice, find ways to continue to help your customers go on the journey with you when you're trying to figure out how to market to them, by giving them choices and being really open. They know that you're marketing to them when they receive your email. So let them know that you want to make it better and you're giving them a choice to make it better. Don't just do it when you're told to because of GDPR or whatever else. And this is where I've got to. So within my brand at Everpress, it's help more people discover new designers by bringing their work to the lives of others. And it's a really sweeping statement that makes me focus on the 2 people involved within our business model, which is the creators that design the garments and the customers who could be potentially buying those garments. And through that, you start to develop tactics that feel a lot more aspirational and exciting to get behind. So introduce ourselves to new customers on channels that they discover designers on, or help existing customers support new causes with personalized emails. Create content that curates new creators for our customers to check out. All of this stuff feels a lot more focused on what that challenge and problems and motivators are. Cool. So, oh, there we go. It was so smooth until that moment. So if you like that way of thinking, I'll just leave you with this, like maybe try that out today, like take a look at your marketing strategy or a document that you have and think about how you could frame that to be customer focused. Create a couple of theories and then go out and validate it, set up some calls with customers, see what they're really feeling and see if you can kind of bring a lot of that heart and customer feeling into your marketing approach. That's it from me. So thank you very much. If you think I added value or if you think I talk shit, let me know either way on the internet or in the Q&A feature that's coming up. It's been a real pleasure. So thank you for listening.
That was absolutely amazing. Thank you, Marisa.
I can't find the stop share button, so there we go.
Let's go. There we go. We're back. We're back in the room. That was so good. And normally I tend to sit and listen to the webinars when Joe's running them, and I'll make 1 or 2 notes. There's usually 1 or 2 like really good takeaways. I'm like, yes, that's the thing. I've got like 20 post-it notes around me, and I don't know where to start. I mean, this sort of human marketing side of things is something that sits very, very close to my own beliefs and my own heart. But there's so many great things in there, and I think Everpress are probably have had their world turned upside down since you've joined. I love the fact that you're going into customer care. I think it's a place that people forget. They're outwardly projecting all their marketing and all their storytelling, and they forget that actually sometimes the people that are already customers need looking after and understanding how they're interacting. I think that's absolutely brilliant. The thing that made me laugh the most was the fact that you referred to yourself as a relative of Hagrid. I just thought that was absolutely genius. But probably my biggest one is treating a customer as a friend, like and asking, how are you?
Yeah.
Rather than, hey, look, I've got this new thing. It's just like, well, screw you. And I think that's such a lovely, simple approach that if people thought about customers like that, then they're just going to have better businesses. I did notice that there were so many comments coming in the chat. I don't know who it is that said this, but they said innovation doesn't come from happy customers. And I was like, actually, that's a really smart way of looking at things. So whoever said that, thank you, because I think that was really really insightful as well. Okay, so we've got 24 open questions, and so if it's okay with you, we'll just kind of work through them. I don't know whether can you see the chat as well that's coming up now?
I can, yeah.
Cool. Okay, so the first question from Jemima was, when talking about personas, how do you build a persona that really taps into this idea of thoughtful marketing, and how do you best present it to senior management? I think maybe the second half is almost the more important one in here.
Definitely. It's a really great question. I really don't like personas. And no, they're really important, but I guess when you're creating personas, think about the use case and what it's useful for. Because if it's to help you create your marketing, for the most part, and it's about segmenting who you're speaking to at each point, then there's probably a different way that you can do it. So it's nice to find ways to group customers. Try not to split it out so much, because if you're offering different services, there might be people that want different things from you. But I guess the way that I would approach it, or the way that I've approached it at Everpress, because we didn't know a lot about the customer, and absolutely I was like, okay, I need to start to paint a picture of who this customer is to find what unites all of them. And I think the shift that I'm seeing in marketing is like a move away from trying to create personas, which is like 4 people in a box that have these age brackets, and instead trying to define what your community is. And then there is something that you're offering that connects everybody to your brand. And I think those are also your best customers to speak to. There'll be people on the peripheries who are just like passively will like take what you're offering, and then they won't engage with you, and that's fine, like that. But I think having that traditional sense of personas, often just you end up in this trap of, one, there's always one persona that you end up deciding to speak to all the time. So it's like, why didn't you just like focus on that? Or you don't, or they don't inspire the people that then have to help you create that marketing. So a creative team that then is working on an ad concept or an email design, if you're like, it's for Caroline, our persona, who is 25 to 35 and loves shopping, like, which like doesn't really tell you lots about them. The persona that I've created at Everpress, or the community, is people who believe that they can make a difference in the world. And through that, I'm trying to feed in like all the different ways that they could believe that they make a difference, through either supporting creators with us, or through people that are creating stuff on our platform. On the senior leadership side of things, I think this research side and the speaking to customers is the way that you'll show them that there is nothing nicer, particularly if you're heavily invested in the company as a senior leadership are, than seeing what people are saying about your brand verbatim, right? And record those interviews that the customers are happy to pull out really great sound bites, and then kind of like blow their mind with, this is what people are saying about us, and then this is how we've connected what our customers are and what binds them. So that's how I'd approach it. Similarly, from the brand side of things, if you're thinking about your brand persona or personality, it should really be about like, who do you need to be that person for the community.
Yeah, that's great. And I think you're spot on in saying it's like selling a phone case, isn't it? Like, most people have trying to create a persona around certain products is almost impossible, I think, because people have such varied interests, and you might be mad about football but also love gardening. It's just, it can be really, really broad. So yeah, and I love the kind of examples as well for senior management. That's good. Okay, so from an anonymous attendee, the thoughtful marketing movement is pure genius. Did you encounter any negativity towards the idea? And how would you encounter any negativity when you pitch your ideas?
We didn't, thankfully, there wasn't any negativity around the thoughtful marketing movement. I think what there was, or what we noticed, and I spoke to quite a few businesses when we launched it, that were just like, we would just never be able to set this up. So I guess negativity internally existed within other companies. So we didn't see it from like a reaction to the movement, but when speaking to marketing managers, people that were looked after the email channel, the top things would be like, our tech team is never going to help us do that. Or our senior management is worried that we're just going to lose loads of email subscribers. And there's like now great resources that have answered, that was kind of like the same approach, right? We're speaking to customers, the audience, and then we've created resources on the thoughtful marketing movement that answer those specific challenges. But I think the biggest fear was this thing that I'm talking about, the mindset shift. It was like they're so focused on what their business was doing that it was uncomfortable to see something from a customer lens, because all they could see was the potential for people to not be receiving our emails, rather than understanding that they weren't reading them anyway. In like the future, like receiving like negativity on this kind of like thinking, it's hard. I think you just have to keep pushing it through. But I guess like that's why one of my things is about like standing up for the customer. Like not everybody is going to have that approach, and depending on the business that you're in, like it's really hard to shift that way of thinking in the same way that we see that on the internet, in the divided world that we're in, where everything is like operates in binaries. But if you just show that evidence, and then you'll start to see the results. Like, I guess the bit that I didn't talk about, but is kind of the point of this all, is by doing this, people should be more engaged with you because you're giving them what they want. So the end result should be better performance.
It does. It feels very much like the way you're talking about your customers feels like you're part of their gang. If that makes sense. Yeah. Rather than being part of it, it's like, no, I very much believe that you're standing up for the customers. It's really, I think when you become part of that tribe or whatever it is, then you can talk with far more empathy, and you're standing up for your mates kind of thing. So yeah, that's lovely. What's the most significant or surprising thing you found out about your customers when speaking to them?
It's always the stuff that like you feel like you've spent loads of time on, and then they'll be like, I'm not so fussed about that. So like whether that's like a bit of like inbox marketing that like you've spent ages like thinking about, and it's hard because sometimes like I mean, there's a lot of things that people think that they don't notice, but they might do. But I guess like more broadly, when I try and ask those broad questions, the customer interviews I've been doing at the moment, so Everpress has a pre-order model, so which means that we're trying to reduce the waste in fashion. You have to wait till all the orders are in for a t-shirt, and then we only produce what's been ordered. So we like to think of ourselves as sustainable. Like we're constantly putting more work into making sure that the garments that we're offering are sustainable. And then I was chatting to customers, and I was kind of asking them these broad ideas about the world. And this is like Gen Z customers who every report I've been told has been like their money is solely dedicated to sustainable brands, and they're like leading the charge, which is true. But when you really ask them to be honest, the reality is not. I was expecting loads of people ready to riot and like be with Greta Thunberg, but they were like, oh, I try and be sustainable, but actually, like I do still buy things from X high street brand because it's convenient. And it kind of just shattered my like desire that we were going to have these really altruistic customers that were changing the world. The reality is they want to do both. They want convenience, and if it's convenient to change the world, they'll do it.
Yeah, it's funny. I went to see a company who wanted to create a load of video around, they're an energy company, and everything that they talk about is being green. And as I got out of the meeting, I looked at the two directors' cars. One was a Bentley Continental GT, and the other one was a Range Rover. And I'm like, really? You really care about the environment?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like, maybe you're not the customer for me.
It's a pick and choose, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Some split values, but. So Dom is just giving you loads of love here, saying no question, just wanted to say phenomenally delivered message, one of the most powerful presentations on the marketing meter, great storytelling to create an impact on such a critical topic. Thank you, loved it. So I'm just going to skip that one. That's very nice of you. Callum, can storytelling work just as well for B2B, or would you say it's more effective for B2C? Well, I have an opinion on that, but yeah, you go for it.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear yours as well, James. Absolutely. Like, I just like you're not selling to another business, you're selling to a person who's making a decision in that business. And like if you can understand like what's driving them, like what do they want to do? The big question I would ask them is like, what's your career goal? Or like, where do you want to be? Like once you find like who might be making this decision, or who might be using your service, or like whatever it is within what you're offering or what you're selling, sell them that vision, like help them understand how they can get there. I guess like the example I shared of the mythical Craig was was someone that was using some sort of software that would help them project manage, right? And you can tell them about the benefits of the project management tool, or you can tell them how they can actually finish work at 6. Yeah.
It's sort of, so I have a lot of so my agency is called Human, and I have a lot of agents, a lot of customers who are by their own admission have incredibly dull products that they sell. So things from like engineering companies to like pipeline, like really I won't even bore you, but actually once you have that conversation with them long enough, and we get all the technical stuff to one side, which kind of people don't really care too much about. Yes, it needs to be bang on. The thing that we usually end up using is their story as a business, because in a lot of B2B situations, people care about their process. They care about the people behind the business that have had the vision to make this product or service. And so, you know, my very first client was an interior designer for the housing industry. And if you were to take their designs, they all kind of look the same as everybody else's. Yeah, okay, maybe theirs was a bit nicer, but really what they were buying into was their team and their process and their vision. And so we just kind of documented, you know, we documented what they do, and people really bought into that. So yeah, I definitely believe you can do B2B and B2C. Okay, so Anna Gibson says, if you want to know how your customers are feeling and do a client brand perception survey, how can you persuade / encourage them to be 100% honest?
It's a really good question. I think this is with like perception or like awareness consideration studies. This is I worry that think people aren't honest. I guess like quantity wise, it's hard to get a huge swarm of people to be honest. But if you're having a one-on-one conversation, it becomes about relationship building. Some things that I'm thinking of is like, if you don't feel comfortable having that conversation, or like trying to create an environment where a customer feels comfortable saying something, which might be like openly admitting that you know that the business has flaws, like offer up something that lets them know that this is a safe space. But also borrow the skill sets from maybe people in your company that might be more used to that. So I'm thinking about a sales manager like who speaks to customers all the time, normally traditionally in a way of like setting, but might help you with some techniques on like how to like break down that like barrier. It's like, it's true, right? Like in the hairdresser's example that I shared, the problem was they didn't bother to check. So I guess like if you remember that people don't say what they're feeling, like double check on their answer. If they say like, oh yeah, I like it, just be like, is there anything that you would improve, anything that like you weren't so happy with? Like give them space, and then I think it will start to come. Or like find anonymous forums for it to happen as well, which is why like the NPS is really useful from a bad review side of things. And I think a great source of, I love whoever it was that said that innovation doesn't come from the good, like I think that's a great source. So hopefully that's helpful. I think it is a bit tricky, but more than anything, if you know that people might not be saying what they're feeling, then you can try and tease out what they really mean.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think kind of giving, showing that you're not trying to say that you're perfect is a really nice way of breaking that barrier down, because they know that, or certainly people will then feel that you're not trying to bullshit them. You say, okay, well, we know that this isn't so great. And, okay, well, let me tell you all the bad things that I feel about you. You know, I think that's really smart. Andrew's got a question. How do you overcome GDPR issues of capturing thoughtful insights from those who unsubscribe or opt out?
Really good question. I was going to add this in, but I felt like that I was putting too much detail in and I was going to forget it all. So I guess there's a moment before before you lose someone forever by like unsubscribing, like you potentially have a moment to just ask them a question. And we see it all the time, like those like surveys. Instead of putting one of those surveys, which is like, why is the reason why you're unsubscribing? one thing that I would suggest is just offering at that moment, like, we're really interested in why you don't want to hear from us. Like, if you're willing to talk to us, let us know, pop in, like, I don't know, pop in your number, or like click on this Calendly link and book a time right now. And our head of marketing, our marketing manager, our head of brand, our CEO, whoever, will give you a call and would love just to have your honest feedback. Incentivize it, like say, like, we'll give you like X if you do, or don't incentivize it, like just test out what works for you. But I think that there is, if I was annoyed with an email, if I saw that versus the like, why do you want to unsubscribe? Not interested, don't need your service anymore. Like that, like, it's just boring and I don't want to tick it. But if I was really like, if something had happened that really made me feel like, I don't want to hear these emails anymore, I might be more inclined to be like, okay, yeah, I'll tell them a piece of my mind. Like, on the opt-out, which is why giving choice is so useful. The opt-out allows you to segment, so they're still subscribed to some of your emails. You can get customers to start to tailor what they do and don't hear about, which means that you do have the chance to still talk to them. Things that I think are really like underrated are even simple things like the frequency email, like saying like, do you want to hear from us once a month? Do you want to hear from us like however many times a month? Like, instead of not trusting your customers to know how much they actually need your emails, like just let them say. So those are a few things that I would do. So just try and capture in those like moments of escape or exiting from you. Try and turn it into a conversation rather than just letting them tick a box.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. So another anonymous attendee, in terms of Mother's Day unsubscribe approach, I feel like this comes from a personal place. Do you think it's important to apply personal experiences to marketing in terms of personality, diversity, etc.?
I think I mean, for me, like it wasn't a personal place like for me, and I think like most of the people in the team like were in like a situation where Mother's Day was still applicable to them. I think it was something that was really like, it sounds sad, it was easy to empathize with. Like when you receive an email from a customer that's just like, I don't have a mum, this is really painful. Like, you know, you have to, if you bother to read that, and the wonderful thing at Bloom & Wild was that the customer delight team was so empowered to share this stuff with all the other teams that you couldn't hide from it. Because that's the type of thing that wouldn't be on your Trustpilot, but would be coming inbound to those teams. Like if you read that, like, and you like, and if you heard that from a friend, you'd be like, oh God, that sucks. Like I didn't even think about that. And I think so empathy more than anything on like personalities and diversity of teams. So something which has been really interesting about me moving to Everpress is that like I'm not the customer. Like I now buy from Everpress, like, and I had done previously, but like in terms of all of the value that it was giving, I don't really see myself as like the core customer, the one that we're really going after. Maybe now that I've made it people that believe they can make a difference. But I definitely didn't feel that way at the start. So it was really about like trying to encourage myself to find ways to empathize. And I think the personality that you need is one that's like curious and is like willing to understand. You don't need to share experiences with people. You just need to, we all share the same emotions. And I guess like that's the thing that like it can connect you. And like, for me, like I find that really interesting. Like if I was smarter and had done better at school, I would have loved to have like studied more of that. But I was too lazy and not smart enough to do it. But yeah, and then I think like having different people in your team is so important. I guess like, you know, there's a whole other conversation about trying not to just have like culture fit hires and build a team full of people that have different viewpoints to help you understand different things that people could be experiencing. You know, I know where my blind spots are. Like I probably don't know all the religious holidays. I might be really like unaware of something that could fall flat on a lot of our customers. So trying to build up and be aware of where do you not empathize. Like, you know, I might not empathize with Trump supporters. But you need to really know where those are and then like try and build a team that like helps plug in that gap. Hope that helps.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, so before we close off, is there, if people want to reach out and say hi, where's the platform that you live? Is it Twitter? Is it LinkedIn? Is it?
LinkedIn is probably my favorite. LinkedIn, Instagram, or Twitter, like they're all like, you know, mix it up, do all three, do none. But yeah, LinkedIn is great. As is Twitter for having chats, and Instagram if you want to see pictures of my cat. Yeah.
Amazing. We do, and we shall. And one final word from me. Again, I didn't say at the beginning that I know we talked about the sponsors, but something that Joe and I love you to do, and as somebody who gets lots of these messages as well, is to, if you reach out to the people that have supported this community, which is an incredible community. There's like 1 billion comments that have come in during the talk. Just drop them a note just to say thanks, or what you enjoyed about the talk, because that kind of thing is worth the sponsorship money alone. It's really lovely to you know, to be supported by those people, and also to get amazing speakers like Marisa. I've really enjoyed the talk, and you know, we're incredibly grateful. And yeah, let us know what you think. Make sure you share the community with everyone, and we'll be here same time next week, but probably with Joe this time once they get the power back on at the village. So thanks ever so much for coming, everyone, and thank you again, Marisa. Really appreciate it.
No, really glad to be here, and thanks for the great questions.
Cool. Take care, everyone. Have a good day.